Welcome to the Teachers on Fire podcast, where 21st century educators come to share, learn, and be inspired. We believe in the growth mindset, creativity, communication, critical thinking, collaboration, and strategic uses of education technology. Our mission is to share news and views from teachers who are crushing it in the classroom and making a difference for learners everywhere. I'm your host, Tim Cavey. Let's jump into today's episode. Today I'm speaking with Dan Ryder. Dan describes himself as an improviser and a design thinker. He became an Apple Distinguished Educator in 2017 and is the co-author of Intention: Critical Creativity in the Classroom. He's currently the Education Director of the Success and Innovation Center at Mount Blue Campus in Farmington, Maine. Dan, thanks so much for joining us today. Are you ready to talk education?
I'm always ready to talk education, Tim.
That is great news. Why don't we start by setting up your current teaching and education situation?
All right. Well, I currently work at the same high school I've worked my entire career at Mount Blue High School in Farmington, Maine. It's a regional rural campus. We serve 10 communities that all told our buses every day drive the circumference of Rhode Island.
Wow.
If you get a sense of just how big our district is. But we only have about 650 to 700 students. So we have a regional technology center integrated into our campus. So we pull students every other day from area high schools as well as our own that come for career and technical education courses. And yeah, it's a pretty fantastic place to live and work. And I am currently, after having served as an English teacher for 20 years, I am now the education director of our new Success and Innovation Center.
Well, that's a very exciting pathway, and what you're talking about there in terms of English and technology definitely resonates with my favorite spaces. So look forward to hearing more. Dan, tell us about a low moment that you've faced in your teaching and education career and how you overcame it.
Well, the lowest point for me recently was the fact that I like to change things. I'm a huge fan of progressive ideas. I'm not always the earliest adopter, but once I see something that I think is doable, viable, and is going to make an important difference in the lives of students, I want to see it happen, especially when I don't see any legitimate barriers for them to exist or things that can't be overcome. And what kept happening was every idea I came up with, it'd get almost to launch, and then the rug would get pulled out from under me last minute because of other people's worries, but not because the idea wasn't good. It was always, well, we like this idea, but just not this year. And we like that, but just there's just so much going on right now. And we don't have time to make that happen. But, oh, it's such a good idea. And that would just drive me crazy, right? So the way I overcame it was persistence. I wish I could be like, I was so strategic about it. But it was really more like just being stubborn and kind of taking advantage of any opportunity that I was given to sit at the table, wherever that table might be that could move the ball forward. And that's how the Success and Innovation Center came to be, is I was given an opportunity to sit at the table of this research grant that we were offered, and this chance to develop an angle for students to engage in multiple pathways towards demonstrating proficiencies and competencies. And we could design that system any way we wanted. And I thought, oh, this could be good. Like, we might be able to finally make some things happen. And it was going to cover enough money that it wasn't that the money barrier was not going to be an issue anymore. Money and time were both going to go poof, because we would have both given to us. And so by kind of positioning myself to not make too many enemies, to not burn bridges, and to, when I get frustrated, I didn't keep my frustrations quiet. No. But I also didn't undermine my ability to affect change later on, just because I was super frustrated in the moment, and then the moment after that, and the moment after that, and yet the moment after that.
That was articulated really well, Dan, and I think that's such a delicate balance, isn't it? When you feel like you've got some progressive ideas, some initiatives that you'd like to introduce to bring about systemic change, yet there are some delays above you, and you're right, it can be really tempting to sort of get hostile or gossipy or, as you put it, burn bridges, but it's all about cultivating those relationships, continuing to build trust and staying persistent. So that's great to hear that the Success and Innovation Center, as you mentioned, came to be after a little bit of a waiting period. Dan, what is it that is really exciting you about education today? And this could be a macro level idea, sort of a big picture in education, or it might be something on the micro level that is happening in classrooms.
So my biggest excitement comes from every time I'm seeing classrooms, whole campuses, departments, grade levels, whomever it is, make the shift from school being a place where you learn information and acquire information to being a place where you learn to be a problem solver.
Mm.
And, for a lot of folks now, that's taking the look of adopting design thinking pedagogy. The idea that we can frame our work inside of human-centered, empathy-fueled problem solving rather than frame it in terms of let's make a thing to make a thing, or let's do this big project that will last for the length of the project and then disappear into the ether. Or let's have all these integrated units, and that's fantastic, but why are they integrated? Because integrated units are important. But but why are we integrating them? Why are we breaking the silos? Because silo busting. Hold on. Could we just be a little more purpose driven? Just a touch. So my entire practice changed with the adoption of design thinking as my preferred mindset and my kind of mental frameworks and postures for approaching work with students and work with learning, and seeing other teachers adopt those principles and even whole campuses kind of lean in towards that type of experience for learning is just really exciting. And I think it could be a huge shift in the narrative of schools needing to be places where students find value and where the parents find value. And when you're kind of in the throes of being challenged to find funding for schools and to have parents and community members believing that you have everyone's best interests in mind, the more we can turn our learning places into places where we're actually addressing the needs of our communities and the needs of our future, I think we're going to be better off.
That was very, very well put. And man, you raised some really good questions there around some of the fads or the trends in education today. So I would imagine you unpack that a little bit further in your book. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah, we do. In intention, critical creativity in the classroom, what we're advocating for is using more creative expression to demonstrate deep understanding. One of our primary tenets in there is this idea of no more dumpster projects.
Okay.
Getting, like a dumpster. So what's a dumpster project? Dumpster project is when you say, hey, make the Lincoln Memorial out of popsicle sticks. And you make it out of popsicle sticks and you turn it in and you get the A because you made it out of popsicle sticks. And then you take it and you throw it in the dumpster because what else are you going to do with it? Right? It happens so often. The question becomes, why make it out of popsicle sticks? Why that creative constraint? How might we layer in more intention into the assessments and the ways in which we ask students to demonstrate their understanding, to force them to think more deliberately about the ways in which they've chosen to demonstrate that understanding and how it might all work together? How might the medium help carry the message and impact the message and amplify the message rather than it simply being, oh, no, I painted this book cover. Great. Why'd you paint the book cover? Because I painted a book cover. It's that same idea. Like, does painting a book cover show what they know? And then you say, why did you put the protagonist on the cover? And all they say is, well, it describes them as being this and this and this, and that's what I painted. And you go, okay, why did you choose to include the protagonist on the cover and not just do something abstract? Huh? Like, so you haven't actually thought about the reasons behind what you've made. You've simply tried to prove that you read the book, and all you've done is prove that you skimmed it. Like, you haven't really proven your understanding, because you're not being very intentional or deliberate about the things that you've done. And that's not to say there isn't a place for serendipity and those little moments of gorgeous completely, but those really come much more frequently when you are thinking with intention more often, right? It's like that idea of what luck is really just the synthesis of preparation and hard work and opportunity, right? You can make your own luck. And that's the same way with when people talk about, well, sometimes you don't know where the great art comes from. I'm like, oh, that's totally true. But if you want it to happen with frequency of any sort, you've got to think more deliberately, intentionally, so that your subconscious brain is doing all this cool work behind the scenes. And that's true for every single kid and every single adult. The more you do things on purpose, the more likely you are to discover those sublime moments where you didn't mean to, but holy cow, that is really cool.
That is so rich, Dan. And you make me think of a blog post I read recently about, asking the question, are our students just zombies going through the motions? But what you're saying there, I got to say, it hurts a little bit, because I've definitely done some dumpster projects with my students even this year. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to add intention to my summer reading list, and I really appreciate what I'm hearing right now.
Well, one of the reasons I can write it is because I've done it. like this is not, and the book is full of the horrible things that I've done in my career. Because if there's mistakes to have been made, I have made them all. I've handed out the worksheets. I've given assignments to put a few grades in the book. I've done all the terrible things that you can do as an educator. I've done them all, probably more than once, because I'm not the fastest learner. but what happened when it goes back to that design thinking piece. And once I adopted those frameworks and just started trying to be much more thoughtful and mindful in my practice and my work, it started creating an environment where there are far fewer times when kids were asking me, what's the point? Right. And that's, right. And that let me know I was onto something. And that, coupled with adopting proficiency-based and standards-based practice, where the grades are really coming from the demonstration of their understanding and not coming from whether or not they turned it in on time or how many points XYZ thing is worth, and all this kind of arbitrary measures that we just toss around to finagle the math. It really pushed the conversation into a much more authentic place of, do you know this? How have you demonstrated it? And at the end of the day, when you look at the report card, does that number and that letter and those comments I put, does that seem to reflect where you think you're at as well? And it would be rare where a student would disagree with me, and not because they're terrified of me, but more likely because we were collaborating together towards that goal. And they understood along the way that the work we were doing had value and purpose. And even if they didn't do well on it, they knew it wasn't because there wasn't a reason for it. It was that for whatever other reason, they chose to only take their learning to a certain level, and that they had ownership over it.
Dan, share about a personal habit that contributes to your success. This doesn't have to be education related, but whether it's small, big, weird, wonderful, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I'm intellectually curious. I'm a generalist by nature. I kind of like something about everything. I love to understand how things work and why they work. I'm not a big one for tinkering to figure it out. I just kind of like knowing. Okay. So I have been that way since I was a little kid. I remember my family got a set of encyclopedias when I turned, 6, 7. And And I would sit on the floor of our living room and read each volume as it arrived, one at a time,
Wow.
like, and just like read that sucker through. And I can still smell that like World Book Encyclopedia glossy page smell. And it had this like gold leaf along the edge, and the whole thing had its like brown, and it was like this brown and tan color palette. So it must have been, this must have been like 82, 83, something like that. And
Right.
I was consumed with military history and world history and different cultures and art, all types of art. And I've been a pop culture nerd my entire life. And I'm always like, I love process. I love finding out how things came to be. So what I think because of that, I may not know a lot about any one thing, but I know just enough to be dangerous with a lot of things,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
that allows me to be really, really fully present with students, because I can sit down with a kid. Just last week I sat down with one kid and had a deep conversation about Overwatch. And I sat down with another kid and had a deep conversation about NASCAR racing. And I sat down with another kid and had a deep conversation about fashion. And I sat down with another kid and talked about vintage magazines. And it's just like I just like a lot of different things, and it makes my job a lot easier to do, but also more exciting to do.
That is very cool, and that's something I strive for. I feel like I definitely don't have it at the level you have it, to sit down and read through encyclopedias one volume after another. That's
Oh,
amazing.
well, remember I was 6 and I lived in the woods. So I was bored. This was pre-cable, pre-internet, very limited amount of time allowed on the Atari 2600.
Yes, yes.
So, I had plenty of time.
I get it. I get it. Rapid fire recommendations now, Dan. First of all, tell us about an education leader that we need to be following on Twitter, and explain why.
Okay, so my friend Ellen Deutscher, she's the letters LN, then DEUTSCH. Ellen Deutsch is what it says on there. But Ellen Deutscher is just this unbelievable force of design thinking. She's a dear, dear friend. She's currently teaching in China for this semester, doing amazing work over there. She lives in the Bay Area and does all this great work on the West Coast, but really works all over the country. Her background is in like middle school and upper elementary school, and she got fifth graders doing Shakespeare and seventh graders designing MacGyver-esque inventions and vice versa. She does all this great stuff with kids, but she has so much to share and so much to offer the community. So I highly recommend following her and engaging with her, because she knows a ton about what it means um, to teach with empathy, but also to foster a more empathetic and more innovative culture for kids.
Phenomenal. I can't wait to follow her and pick up on some of that gold. Next, Dan, point us to an ed tech tool that you currently love using in your classroom or your day-to-day work.
FlipGrid. It is.
Oh, yeah.
It is so cool, right? It's not even like cutting edge anymore because everybody's already using it. but I love them, and I love that they're constantly iterating, and I love that every iteration seems to be better than the one before. And I love how accessible they are as a company, how purely supportive of educators that they are. Their paid tiers are very affordable, which is stunning. Full disclosure, I am an ambassador for them, which isn't a paid gig. It's just kind of I love your stuff, and yay, I get like they let me know about things ahead of time, and I get to. And they help me out with getting my college students and my high school students a little access on trial basis to additional features, and it's cool. They're really, really good people, and Joey there and the rest of the team have just been remarkable since they launched. And I can't recommend it enough. I think it does what's supposed to do. It's supposed to do it well. And the other thing I love about them is they love their platform, but they realize that in the world of education, access varies and reliability varies. And so they've done simple little things like if you can record your audio for it or record your video for it in any other app, in any other tool, as long as you have pretty much a standard video file, you can upload it. And it doesn't seem like a big deal to some people, but for me, that was just the most mwah moment. Like, yes, they get it. So FlipGrid, that's the one to use.
Well, you've definitely got the fever. I've gotten into FlipGrid this year as well. And, one thing, I work with 8th graders, Dan, and one thing I've noticed is sometimes at the outset, there's that little bit of reluctance about recording, students recording their own face and their own voice. But I find with increasing reps, they sort of gain that comfort level. And And, I just tell them, look, I mean, we're all seeing the face we see all the time. It's just that personal discomfort. We all have it. We all sort of have that discomfort with hearing our own voice, but you just got to get past that. And then that's when the power really comes out. Is that what you found?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And another one of those features they have where they, at the free tier, it's a minute 30. So it's a nice, you don't have to talk much. You can't say more than a minute 30. But I like that even on the paid tier, it maxes out at 5. So the goal isn't recording long tracks. It's you can set it at 30 seconds and say, hey, I only want you to talk for 30 seconds. Like that's it. Right. And I tell my kids too, look, you don't want to put your face on it? Fine. I need to hear your words. I need to hear your voice. So they aim it at their shoes. They aim it at what? I'm totally fine with that. It's that I want to hear their ideas, and then hopefully they'll get more comfortable putting their face with them.
Next, Dan, recommend a book, maybe one that you've been reading lately or one of your all-time faves, and let us know why you recommend it.
So the best book I've consumed lately is I listened to the audiobook of Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, and holy cow, like it's so nice when a popular piece of somewhat literary fiction. It's not the most literary, but it's more literary than pop fiction, I think. And that's a good book. Like it's about empathy. It's about growing up in the late kind of the mid 90s. So it was hitting some nice cultural touchstones for me. I was like, wow. Oh, wow. This is getting real. But just it is a book that caught me unawares. I didn't really know much about it. Got it from my local library on audio and said, well, let's give it a try. It's got literally had a cool cover that drew me in, and I was like, all right, let's go. And I absolutely loved it. I couldn't stop listening.
That's a great plug. I look forward to checking that out. And yeah, bringing back the 90s. Always love a little bit of throwback to my high school days. Dan, if you're a podcast listener, point us to a podcast that helps the commute go by and tell us a little bit about it.
I listen to a ton of подcasts. My favorite one right now is Song Exploder. The host, I always mispronounce his name, so I'm going to spare everyone and not butcher it. But his last name is Hirway. But it's Song Exploder. You can find it. It's on. Just look up Song Exploder. I think it's songexploder.net is the website. But what Song Exploder are interviews. They're one-sided interviews with musical artists of a wide range, super diverse collection he's been able to get together. And they talk about their process of creating a single song, typically a song that you know or familiar with in some way. And it takes you into the production. It takes you into the songwriting. It takes you into the parts and the troubles and the tribulations and then some of the good things that came out of the song and things they weren't expecting. And you get this, it's like having a commentary track on a DVD, except it's on a song. And you get to hear like isolated parts. My favorite one is by the hip hop group Clipping. And they explain how they developed their sound through found sounds and how they use technology and integrate that with analog sounds to create these unique rhythms and patterns. And that one, and then Solange Knowles has one where she explains the title track off of her record that came out, Cranes in the Sky, and it's just I already thought the song was pretty good. Whole another level of appreciation for her music. And Solange Knowles is one of those people who gets, because she's the sister of the Queen Bey, she gets a little less attention than she deserves. And it's just that's a remarkable record. But that podcast is so interesting. So if you're a process nerd like me, and I've been able to use lots of episodes of it with my students, I created an assessment called a blog post called Project Exploder, where they had to create like a commentary track for their projects at the end of a project, and told them like, listen to Song Exploder and then do your best to recreate that vibe. Right. And it's super hard for them. They struggled with that reflection. But I'm still proud of it. I still think it's a good idea.
I love that idea. I can't wait to try that. Sort of a reflecting back and deconstructing their own learning process and adding some of those outside facts and backstories behind their decisions. I think that's incredible. Dan, tell us about a YouTube channel that you enjoy, and this might be one that really rocks your classroom or one that you just find amusing personally.
Well, in all honesty, I don't spend a lot of time on YouTube because you have to look at it. Right. And I need things I can just listen to because my eyeballs are usually consumed by 200 other things at the same time. Right. So I'm a huge fan of audio, but I did find a huge amount of value in Soul Pancake's Empathy Lab. Okay. They have just a great series of videos about empathy and developing empathy, and little experiments that they did to show the power of empathy. And I really enjoyed those. And I like all the content that Teacher's Channel puts out. That's pretty great too. Mm-hmm. They put out a lot of really high quality stuff that I appreciate. But yeah, most of the time my eyeballs are consumed by things that I'm trying to create, make, or whatever. So I have a lot of audio running all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Last question. Speaking of eyeballs, Dan, you're at the end of your day. You don't have any energy left for making something or building or planning. Right? All you've got left is just sitting on the couch. What are you watching on Netflix right now?
Oh, on Netflix right now. Let's see. I'm really looking forward to, in the next week, finally sitting down and watching the second season or third season now, is it? I've lost track of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which is the most fun TV show. It's just ridiculously great. I'm a huge comic book nerd, and I love everything they do with that one. Over on Hulu, I tried to watch the second season of Handmaid's Tale, but it got too real because it stopped seeming like it was fiction and started feeling like I was watching a reality TV series play out before my eyes. And so I had to be like, I don't have it. So instead I flipped over to Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan's The Strain, which is this kind of B-movie level a vampire TV show that's been on for several seasons. And the whole thing is now up on Hulu. And I'm watching the last season of that, and it's mindless fun, and it's not really fun. It's super depressing, but it's like it scratches a particular type of itch that only Guillermo del Toro films and TV shows from scratch. So
those are great picks. I've actually just started The Handmaid's Tale with my wife. She usually has a really low tolerance for scary, but she read the book, and so we've been enjoying that. But you're right, it's pretty dark, and it's pretty intense. And thanks for the warning about season 2 or whatever's ahead.
Yeah, season 1. Oh man, I couldn't get enough. I'd watch 2 or 3 at a time. Yeah. No, I'd watch like 2 at a time, because then I was like, okay, I don't think I'm emotionally equipped to handle 3 episodes. But wow, I got to the end of episode 1, and I was like, nope, not in our political climate right now. Yeah. No, I'm good. When things are a little kinder in the world, then I can handle this. But right now, boy.
Those are some great picks. I'll definitely pass off the Legends of Tomorrow pick to my 2 boys. It sounds like something they might inhale. Dan, this has been an absolute blast, man. I'm just picking up your energy and your enthusiasm, your creativity, your hunger for learning. I can't wait to take in more of your content. And like I said, definitely want to add your book to my summer reading list. What's the best way for listeners to follow you and get to know your stuff a little bit more?
So I'm all across the social media sphere. I'm at Wicked Decent. That's my main roots there. Born and bred. And so you can find me on Twitter at Wicked Decent, Instagram at Wicked Decent, and then you can find me on my website is danryder207.com. Maine, we proudly boast one area code, and that is the 207. So there's that. And then you can find out about my book that I co-wrote with my wonderful collaborator and co-conspirator, Amy Burvall, Intention, Critical Creativity in the Classroom. Our website for that is intentionthebook.online, and you can find it right on Amazon. If you put in Dan Ryder and Intention on your Amazon, it'll pop right up. And we're really, really proud of the book, and it just celebrated its 1-year anniversary of being in print. And I'm off to ISTE here shortly to talk all about it some more. And actually, after we get off here, off recording this podcast, I've got to go finish packing to head off to Minneapolis, where I'm going to be at Minnetonka Public Schools doing a session on the book this week. So it's been really cool. It's been good to get the ideas out there into the world.
Well, I'm a little jealous of your travels, particularly ISTE. I was in San Antonio for that last year, and just a fantastic conference. Best of luck as you head off to Minnesota, and I think ISTE this year is in Philly. Is that right?
It's in Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. That's right. Chicago.
The hot and windy city. Yeah, I haven't been since it was in Philly. So it's been a couple of years for me. So this will be exciting. It'll be good. For people listening that might hear this in time, I'm going to be doing sessions the Monday of ISTE in the Google Playground. I'll be talking about the book and doing a bunch of other things. And I'm also going to be over at the Pie Top booth on Monday, talking about more meaningful making.
That's awesome, Dan. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. And best of luck at those engagements, and have a wonderful summer.
Hey, thanks, Tim. I appreciate being on.
All right. Take care, Dan. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Teachers on Fire, where teachers come to share, learn, and be inspired. Please subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review on iTunes, and follow us on Twitter at Teachers on Fire. I'm your host, Tim Cavey, saying goodbye for now, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Teachers on Fire podcast.